Good afternoon, good evening, folks. My name is Tom, and I'm standing here next to Anatoly, and we're going to bring you the European console relegation situation. Right now, we've got teams battling it out to figure out who's going to represent Europe in the Smite console league, and that's exactly what we're going to do today. We'll start off with Excel versus TMNT for Lyfe. The guys previously under a different organization, now breaking out on their own. Auzrik and friends will do it. We'll see how picks and bans goes. Here we go. TMNT versus Excel.
In this two-game set, first game of the day for the European relegations, Excel versus TMNT. We're going to see Circuit being banned away by Excel and Ratatasker. Not too uncommon for these jungle bans to go immediately off the table.
Exactly. These characters are able to really set the pace of the game, travel across the map, and really be omnipresent. Susano included. Not only does he get movement speed from his passive, but also just a kit that allows him to naturally traverse the map as well. And Zeus doesn't really fit in the archetype with the rest of the three, but he's just a powerful mid-mage.
Definitely controls a lot of space in that jungle. That's something you generally want to avoid giving your opponents, especially if they're first pick. But banning away the Zeus mage, they're going to get another bursty god on the form of Poseidon.
So Poseidon, not only does he have burst, but he's got control in the way of the whirlpool. That's going to drop down a cripple field and disallow any real jump ability out of there. Cabrakan, he's not going to stop anybody from jumping, but he's certainly going to trap you as well. The tremors, the ultimate, a lot of real just traps coming out here on either side. Bacchus, on the other hand, really going to look to utilize that burst from Poseidon.
Absolutely. The knockup is going to set up the opportunity for that whirlpool crack, and especially with the Intoxicate. The damage is already there for Excel, and locking in the Odin this early in the draft just to counter these two Guardians that's not going to be able to get out of that cage. So now TMNT has to adapt their draft and start getting some jumps.
Usually you see the Ullr come out here in conversation, or excuse me, in counteracting the Odin. Right now we're floating in the middle of nowhere, but we're going to give our picks and bans back to you in just a moment. Normally you see the Ullr come out.
Yes.
I won't say normally, not always, but Ullr versus the Odin is usually a very popular strategy to really counteract what Odin does. His whole idea is to jump on in there and then drop the ring and start the initiation. But if he jumps on in there and he gets pulled, he can't do that. Why don't we see the Ullr?
The Hunbats is great disruption. It's just a different style of dealing with the Odin, because if the Odin's going to dive your backline, the Hunbats can do the same, dive the enemy backline, and then prevent any sort of follow-up to that Odin cage, which is why we see TMNT ban that option away. And not only do they take the Hunbats, they're also going to ban the Ullr themselves, fearing that it's going to be Odin solo, Bacchus support, and then maybe the Ullr could counter that Hunbats that they have in the jungle.
That's really the dream there, is getting both the Odin and the Ullr on the same team. Not only can you lock players in, but if they do manage to jump their way out, you can rank them, pull them right on back with that Ullr ultimate. So that's the dream. You're going to see the ban come out, and that's going to be disallowed, so not going to happen there. Excel versus TMNT is the game that we're getting into today. Picks and bans halfway through. We're struggling to bring you that, but we'll be back with the picks and bans in just a moment. We see a lot of burst, Bacchus and Poseidon across the way. The Odin, of course, as well. As we get back into picks and bans, Excel is selected here. Will also dissuade the opposition from going too many healers. Sylvanus here for TMNT. Should TMNT have been thinking about a secondary healer, Odin is going to really stop that in the tracks.
And especially considering the attack speed is going to get negated by that Odin cage as well. A lot of utility inside that God kit. Excel taking away Giannis. A lot of mobility stripped away from TMNT, and the Isis, the early game gods taken away from TMNT.
So they've got one more pick, and it's going to go next to Odin, Batz, Sylvanus, and Cabrakan. We'll see if it's going to be the Hunter or the mid laner. Either way, TMNT giving it some thought. It will be the Anhur. Honestly, this character is normally found in the long lane, but can find himself in the mid lane if TMNT want to experiment a little bit as well. He can get out of Odin and can still deal with that stuff. Fenrir will be the selection for Excel, likely in the jungle, relegating Odin over there to the short lane, and Ullr will be the hunter of choice for Excel.
A lot of early to mid-game damage out of Excel between this Fenrir, Bacchus, Odin, Ullr combination. Poseidon will definitely carry in the late game, but I'm liking this draft from Excel here.
The absolute last pick, Thoth here. Thoth has been a character that is completely banned out, almost 100% so, across the different leagues that we have here at hi-rez Studios, and seeing him come all the way down at the bottom, that's a little bit surprising. Expect heavy artillery, long range burst, and a little bit of control coming out from this relatively safe mage. As we get into game, we'll see how Thoth actually works out. He's been banned so often that we rarely get to see him picked. TMNT versus Excel. Let's jump on it.
And I like the idea of picking up this Thoth this late in the draft stage because the Odin cage is going to be able to create a lot of distance that you're going to have to cover. And what better mid-mage to have to cover that distance than Thoth?
Yeah, and it's almost as if these teams just sort of got to the bottom and said, hey, they didn't ban the Thoth. So let's go ahead and just sort of pick that. So we'll see how he works out. As I said, been banned for so long, so often that we'll actually get to see him play here today. I wonder how it's going to work out.
Scylla was also available whenever that draft was elected to go for TMNT. Instead, going for the Thoth has a lot of burst potential in the earlier stages, a little bit more mobility. The nice little stun at the tip is going to be able to set up even more potential on the side of TMNT. Already grouped up, though, we're going to see Mr. Turtle here on the Sylvanus, which is going to be able to outclear Bloakley on this Fenrir with those AoE in hands.
One thing to note about the Thoth pick is that he's certainly a difficult to play mage. You really have to get your combination right, dropping down the window first and then pulling out those abilities and seeing how the basic attacks weave through in and out. It's definitely not a character that you could just sort of look at and play, similar to maybe that Poseidon across the way. 50-meter fly, though, has been a really really big part of the European console scene and a part of this team specifically next to Auzrik and Mr. Turtle and Predators. So with Welshbeastq joining this season, TMNT for Lyfe have a relatively strong-looking roster. And if I'm talking about how many hours you have to put in to be relatively strong at Thoth, I'm not too concerned about 50-meter fly here.
No, it definitely should have a good opportunity. But the fact of the matter is TMNT, they elected to invade on the right-hand side, taking away the blue buff and the speed buff because Bloakley was sitting in that mid lane for so long. But at the same time, they're losing a little bit on the left, already losing both the babies of the red buff as well as the whole purple buff. Welshbeastq on this Anhur is going to have a little bit of a difficult time once Olliieee decides to rotate away against no compromise on the Ullr.
Really, even though the Impale is just almost superior to the bladed arrow?
It's about not necessarily this early in the game that he's worried about. It's about the items. Once the power spikes happen for no compromise, because the fact that Anhur sitting in the left-hand side, he's not getting any gold from the purple or the red that was secured by TMNT, whereas we see no compromise already getting 2.5 camps between the full purple, the oracles, and half of the red buff.
So it's really all about just the curve situation.
Yes.
is what you're talking about. So we'll keep an eye on that and see where the players opt to go. Anhur right now has a little bit more gold than the Ullr, but we'll see if that does change thanks to some of the superior farming coming out from XL. But at the moment, Anhur seems to be doing just fine.
Once the changes happen in terms of getting your own purple buff and then getting your own red buff, this is where no compromise is going to start taking over. And the fact of the matter was, we're not seeing too much pressure from XL in this dual lane to be able to deny this wave under the tower repeatedly. Rotating to their own purple buff was a little bit mistimed because what they should have done was put pressure to allow the wave to enter the tower of Welshbeastq, deny him that gold, and that's going to give the edge to no compromise.
Right now, very early on in this game, teams not even looking for the opportunity to go ahead and fight, which is curious to me, looking at the Fenrir. Now, with the Hun Batz, sure, you just wait until you're level 5, but Batz has somehow found himself almost a full level, almost 2 full levels above his opposition, about a level and a half there for Auzrik. And yet we still haven't seen him gank. What is it about?
It's all about Auzrik sitting in that solo lane with Predators, taking away the blue and the speed buff away from both WRLDedit and Bloakley is why we see this experience gap onto both of the solo and the jungle side. But look at this.
Some jumps in, coming out both from the jungle and the support. Big damage coming out as the Kraken falls down. 1 kill as Ollie picks it up off of the damage from the mid lane. And there's the ultimate out of the jungle. 1 more death will come out. And it'll be WRLDedit this time. Excel starts the game off. 2 kills to none.
Mr. Turtle making the rotation, but he was only level 4. He wasn't going to be of much use in that encounter. Just now hitting level 5 with that Wrath of Terror not being available. It didn't allow TMNT to find any return kills. Look how low Ollie and Bloakley were.
Good battle vision coming out from Bloakley right there, just understanding that there's people stacked up, goes for the stun, and then Ollie follows right up off of it. He sees the players just obviously standing still because they're stunned. And then Bacchus comes through and starts the party. And that allows Sir Falzalot to go ahead and lock it down. Just a beautiful combination of abilities on the side of this squad. XL certainly playing like they really want to make it, or at least retain their spot in the SCL.
And that double Kraken from Falzalot was great for Bloakley to now get back into the game. Struggling a little bit in the experience category because of those earlier invades from TMNT. Now picking up his own speed buff, heading into the 4.5 minute mark. This is what you kind of want as a Fenrir player. You don't want to be too far behind. Despite you having really good base damage, you're going to be able to really snowball. Now, the fact of the matter is, having this warrior tab before Bloakley, where still not finished for Auzrik, it's going to give him the opportunity to do more damage and to outmaneuver him in the jungle, having more mobility.
Which is just, I mean, one of the reasons that we see the Fenrir he's backed. Auzrik can probably afford this tier 2 boots, but he's been out here farming pretty much the entire time. And we saw the monkey still has a level lead, but has not yet really gone for anything aggressive just yet.
Not the opportunity given for him. Mr. Turtle is level 5, though. He's going to be able to get the Wrath of Terror up in this team fight. Jumping in is going to be Olliieee, finding 2 with a knockup, but no other follow-up.
Mr. Turtle drops his ultimate in the backside, just pretty much as protection for himself. And nice combination. Bloakley picks up Auzrik and just stands still waiting for Sylvanus to come through. That's exactly what goes down. The mid laner finds his 3rd assist of the game as the kill winds up heading out onto the support, Olliieee, who has 2 kills and 1 assist on the support. But Bacchus is one of those characters that you don't really mind getting a couple of extra kills on.
Especially considering that Bacchus just has high base damage in general. You don't necessarily have to go into shoes of the Magi for that penetration. You're going to be able to just have so much mobility with these Traveler shoes. Very tanky in the early game as well with this mark of the Vanguard. So this is going to give more opportunities for Excel to find people out of position. And I loved what Bloakley did when he had Auzrik in his mouth during Ragnarok. He backpedaled a little bit to make sure he lined up that center of the crack until now a more efficient kill.
Just understanding the move set of your teammates is definitely a strong look. And, you know, when it comes down to Bacchus, different characters, obviously different Guardians do different things for the team. You're going to look at a character like Ares to really cause some front-end damage and strip beads. You're going to look at a character like Sylvanus for wave push and a little bit of sustain as well. You look at a character like Bacchus to lower the kill threshold of the character. So obviously you're going to set up with the belly flop, but more importantly, core to what Bacchus does is he's similar to a warrior in essence, where his damage is part of his CC. He jumps on top of you, he drops the ultimate, and now instead of needing 75% of the health bar to find the kill, you just need half right there. Bacchus contributes to the kill along the same lines, just looking for the pure damage. 4th kill comes very easily for Excel. This TMNT just haven't done anything.
Sylvanuses have always been the focus point of a lot of teams draft, but catching Predators X out of position. He's going to get caged in currently, but only Bacchus is following up. They don't have the Kraken available, but they do have Intoxicate.
And there's going to be help from Auzrik. Finally, Bloakley still gets out of there. Nice little shimmy by way of the Brutalize. Over the top comes Auzrik, looking for something, but a rotation out of the long lane. No Compromise finds the stun. Welshbeastq fires the ultimate at nobody. Rough stuff for the Anhur. TMNT for life get out of that situation, but they don't really earn much off of it. You'll see they'll go ahead and invade the blue buff, so a little bit of something, and I'm happy that they at least got the blue.
They got not only the blue, but also the speed, so they're denying 200
That's
gold
good
on the side of Excel. Despite not finding any return kills, they're separating the gap a little bit better to be able to still stay relevant in this game. They're only down about 850 gold, and this is not an insurmountable lead in the 8-minute mark. They're also really doing a good job contesting the enemy experience categories here.
And when it comes down to it, I mean, when you look at these types of leads, this is really what makes teams find themselves in the driver's seat. It's very strong that TMNT have evened it up, like you mentioned, but the fact that Excel still has that gold lead is really what you got to look at here, because early stages, it's a nice little balance, but once you start hitting that mid stage, your experience is going to come. It's about how you're separated by way of itemization, and that of course lends itself to gold. So that little 1100 gold lead as we get closer to that 10-minute mark, that's what I've got my eye on totally. I want to see Excel. They've got 4 kills to none. That doesn't mean much. It's about the 1100 gold. How do they extend that? Look for a Gold Fury, look for a pick at the mid lane, etc.
They're also looking for these picks as they're getting these levels. Hitting level 9 and above, you're getting more of a power spike now onto Sir Falls a lot. Hitting that level 2 Kraken ability before the magical defense items are truly in effect for TMNT. Still none across the board. Mr. Turtle now working on some magical defense. He's been the focus point, at least for a little while here after Auzrik, and immobile Sylvanus that you can easily pick off between stunning him with the Unchained into Ragnarok, can set up so many easy kills for Excel, and then now you find the early pick, but it's just taking away the sustain options from TMNT. You're taking away the Wrath of Terror knockup, which is a great engage and a counter engage tool.
And at this point, I mean, you're not even thinking about dealing with the anti-heal, really. You're not even thinking about that thought process because you've been able to stun what Sylvanus is bringing completely throughout the entire course of the game. If the Sylvanus gets ahead of himself and starts actually contributing that sort of thing, then you can sort of think about it. But just because something is present and available on the other team doesn't mean it's actually being utilized. Unlike this Fenrir Kraken combo, every single time Mr. Turtle falls down, this is only in second, but every single time we see that Fenrir flank, the ultimate comes out, Ragnarok grabs the player, and they get krakened. Anybody without beads is going to be in that situation.
And it's very easy to pick off Sylvanus before these defense items come online. Just now finishing off the Hardware Amulet, trying to survive against Mr. Falls a lot. This is going to be a great pickup for him. Something that Mr. Turtle can obviously do here is to use that Wrath of Terror now defensively to prevent the initial bite from Ragnarok, and that wouldn't put him out of position.
I love that play coming out from TMNT for Lyfe after the fact. They obviously lost their support and they haven't been doing too hot in the beginning stages of this match, but we saw TMNT cover exactly what they needed to. Oh no, we lost our support. We got picked specifically in the mid lane. They rotate right over to the Gold Fury and make sure they have vision. That is the logical next step for XL to really look at once they get that pick, is to go directly to the Gold Fury and try to find that situation there. So TMNT, at least they're not having too much success right now, but that move, that small, simple move looking for the vision since the Oracles are down, that right there shows me that they have a commanding, they at least command an understanding of the game.
It's definitely important to have vision around Gold Fury, or even take a peek after you lose your support player. But the fact of the matter was there's 3 ultimates committed to finding that pick onto Mr. Turtle, one of them being that Kraken, which is also a great objective confirm tool on the side of Excel. So if I was TMNT, I wouldn't be too necessarily worried about a Gold Fury objective, because you still have Thoth with a final judgment to be able to steal that very easily.
I actually want my opposition to go for the Gold Fury
at that point,
because Thoth and Welshbeastq's ultimate combined are going to steal it. Welshbeastq comes through from the left side, Thoth comes through from the right. Both characters can attack the Gold Fury without the enemy seeing them, so they drop some vision. Excel goes for it. TMNT can both converge and try to go for the steal. Excel not going to take the bait, however. Still with a very small lead. 5 kills in total, but just 1,000 gold separating Excel from TMNT at the moment. And right now, as we are about 13 minutes or just shy of it in, Excel need to make their look towards the mid game. They've successfully won the early game, and that should generally be expected with a Fenrir Kraken combo. This time the ultimate not going to be used out of the Fenrir, and that might turn around and bite him. There's the turnaround kill. 50-meter flying Auzrik. Get the first 2 kills for TMNT.
The Ragnarok was actually used, but it was negated by Mr. Turtle's ultimate there. That CC immunity prevented the pickup, and that's why we saw the great turnaround play. And instantly, without any hesitation, finding those 2 picks, going for the goal here, but no compromises here with Olliieee.
And here's the jump in, and it gets stolen. Excel takes it away. The objective goes the other direction, and TMNT are losing players left and right. 2 down. Auzrik and Mr. Turtle fall down, and the lead for Excel just gets boosted. That looked like a great moment for TMNT to tie, maybe even take the lead, Anatoly. But Excel snatches it. They look towards the left lane, and with that meditation, Olliieee might get out of here, and he's got some help here, but Thoth shows up and finally weaves through traffic and finds the shot.
Olliieee a little bit too aggressive, diving that tier 1 tower, definitely feeling himself there, trying to set up his Hunter player, not going to really find it. And that last goal for your objective plays just goes to show you how important it is to control not only just a sentry vision on the Gold Fury pit, but regular vision beyond that Gold Fury pit to see who's around the corner. It's very easy for one god to be able to steal it.
Well, there's not going to be a steal this time. Auzrik gets a kill on the WRLDedit, but the Portal Demon does go down to Excel. 50-meter fly, able to punish as well. So we saw a 2 for 2, and then it got turned into a 2 for 2 for 2. And now continuing the conversation, it's a 2 for 2 for 2 for 2.
That's a lot of twofers. It seems like we need to be giving away a deal somewhere along the line here.
So, jokes aside, if you actually look into why that's happening, it's because both of these teams are playing almost with the buddy system. Bloakley and Sir Falls-a-Lot are together almost all of the time, looking for that Ragnarok into the Kraken combination. Auzrik and 50-meter fly have really been able to help each other out, but it's been Auzrik and Mr. Turtle that have been right next to each other pretty much the entirety of the match. So with that in mind, Tolly, what you're seeing out of these teams is that since they're sticking together 2 by 2, they're both succeeding and losing 2 by 2 as well.
And that's no big deal here, so it's still in the 15-minute mark. TMNT able to still cut their losses despite losing that gold fear. They're able to pick off both the mid-tier 1 tower and that solo tower, but more importantly, look at that experience. Got 5,000 on the side of TMNT. These picks, as they get later in the stages, the respawn timers get longer. You're going to have more time to be able to get the little jungle camps and start snowballing in terms of an extra wave over your opponent. And all these waves add up if you just look at that experience difference.
Yeah, I mean, 4,700, that's relatively, that's something to talk about when you start to look at the player levels. They're really starting to really come into themselves. Bloakley has seemingly been the more successful jungler, and yet it's Auzrik with a 2.5 level lead.
And the reasoning behind this is because Auzrik's deaths were in the early stages of the game where your respawn timer is very short. You're able to come back in no problem, whereas we see Bloakley with only 2 deaths, 1 death less than Auzrik, has the longer respawn timers based off the timing of his death.
For me, it's not even the deaths, though, Anatoly. It's just the fact that Auzrik has done less than Bloakley. Bloakley set up those 5 assists were 5 almost separate gangs coming in, fighting a flank, big ultimate, Kraken setup. Auzrik kind of didn't really seem like he did much early game, so why is the experience lead tilted in the other favor?
Auzrik actually did a lot of stuff behind the scenes, stealing that speed buff and the blue buff to start things up. Bloakley was sitting in the mid wave with Sir Falls-a-Lot that was getting out pressured in the mid wave because Mr. Turtle was there at level 1, but here comes WRLDedit blinking in.
And there's the Kraken on top. 50-meter fly is able to walk away for the moment. Bloakley stuck in the cage, and the Poseidon long range throws off the tidal wave. Bloakley jumps up and down, not towards anybody, so not going to have an effect there, but there's a blink in from Predators. Beautiful wall, and the control is strong. Sir Falls-a-Lot going to fall a lot. Auzrik gets a kill as well onto Bloakley. 2 dead on the side of Excel. Olliieee trying to find a way out. Basic attacks coming out from the Anhur. Doesn't want to take the tower just yet, but Thoth throws the window down, and players know that they have to retreat and be careful. Minion wave filtering in here on the tier 2 in the mid lane. Predators looking for the stun, not gonna find it. Up, down, out of the Odin. That might have been his own death sentence. The rest of the players from TMNT chase out the Hunter. And will he die? The answer is yes. WRLDedit falls down. Number 2 in the mid lane goes down as well. As far as towers are concerned, TMNT take the kill lead. It's now 8-7, and the gold lead is theirs as well. Anatoly, 2,000 gold at 17 and
This is the difference between these team compositions. The initial draft from Excel looked so good in the early to mid game, but they weren't really able to snowball it here. They're more single target focus here between Bloakley finding somebody with the Ragnarok, trying to pick them off with the Kraken, and whenever that Kraken doesn't connect, whether it gets Aegis or not, which it did happen from 50-meter fly that last encounter, it's kind of a do or die situation. Sir Falls-a-Lot was ahead in terms of the player damage, but right now it's actually going to, if we take a look at it here, it's actually going to be 50-meter fly hitting that final judgment at the last tip of that team fight, allowed his team to really succeed, especially with Auzrik controlling a lot of space with that Fear No Evil.
Gold Fury goes to Excel. This time they owned it from start to finish instead of snatching it away from TMNT, who still have the gold lead thanks to their sequence they just pulled. Bloakley, however, if we want to break down that team fight that we saw, that Bloakley was really the egregious situation there. Watching the Fenrir just jump in place and not use the stun onto perhaps the follow, because right after he jumps in place, that's when you see Cabrakan come in. Predators makes the flank, completely controls, and the whole team fight switches. Look, I'm not saying that Bloakley with a single stun can win that team fight versus lose it, but I think that becomes a very impactful part of that fight, and not having that available, I think, winds up being an issue for TMNT. Here he comes!
Oh, Welshbeastq barely able to escape from from danger. They're just not in time with Bloakley. Even WRLDedit making the rotation with his teleport. That actually opens up the door on the right-hand side for this Portal Demon to be taken. Olliieee spots it around. Predator's X is going to be able to zone out the Cabrakan, finding the ultimate, doing a lot of damage. 3 abilities being used. The Tremors trying to find the last hit, but a great knock-up from the Poseidon.
Love Predator's thought process here. He's always looking for the control, but also the kill. I like to see that. That's kind of Cabrakan's entire jam. Right now he gets to control, separating the team from where the Portal Demon was. Olliieee not going to be oxen free this time around. Auzrik gets credit for the kill. 4, 3, and 4 for the jungler on the side of TMNT.
And because Bloakley is so far behind, he sits in the left lane trying to catch back up in the experience. He's 4 levels behind Auzrik. He had to be able to get this tier 1 tower to get something back in turn for his team. And the reason why he's this far behind is just because his deaths have just been so unfortunately timed. He's not been able to make an impact despite those early kills onto Auzrik and that 1 kill onto Mr. Turtle. The timing of it is what's important.
It's actually also, I kept talking about how positive the gang set of Bloakley were, right? We saw the ones that worked out. Here's the problem when you're playing jungle, is that, and you used to see this with players like Weekend and DJ Pernicus over in the North American Smite Pro League, is that the over eagerness to help and assist your team can wind up putting yourself in the back seat. You go for gank after gank after gank after gank, kind of leaving the jungle. And this is what we're seeing. TMNT are taking XL's jungle while Bloakley is off ganking. You're not going to get the same experience and gold for those ganks, and especially if they don't go your way. And so the Fenrir finds himself quickly behind.
You were talking about the buddy system earlier on, and this is something that XL did well in the early game, but now this is going to favor TMNT to stay with the buddy system between the Wrath of Terror on Mr. Turtle, the Fear No Evil on Auzrik. It's very difficult for XL to really start taking these team fights in the jungle.
Right, and here comes the push at a Welshbeastq. He'll be able to pick up a tier 1 tower. Free 50 free. Mid lane going to be pushed up by XL, still trailing by about 3,000 gold, but they're going to make up a little bit of it here. Tier 1 tower goes down to the blue squad. Split push coming out from red. TMNT making sure to take care of that tier 2 tower on the left side as XL pushes up in the mid. Here comes Auzrik, big flank out of the jungler. That's gonna be a kill for the monkey. Still continuing on the support. Predators gets a kill onto Sir Falls a lot. Bloakley's gonna be the next one to fall if the players can catch up. Mr. Turtle on the chase, can't find the grab, but Auzrik finds the nab. Down he goes, the 6th kill for the jungler. 3 are dead. Welshbeastq has the Phoenix.
TMNT won that team fight 4-on-5. Welshbeastq able to get the Phoenix. He's just laughing in the fountain, avoiding the axe stun as well. Level 19 on her. I love plays like that to be able to see how confident you are.
That's the play. That's the play. People get mad about BM Tolly. People want to see this. People want to see like chess club out here. They want everybody to be polite and shake it. I want to see that. I want to see the split push because everybody's been. If you play casually at home, that situation. As you're split pushing or you're talking to your teammate, that teammate, or maybe it's you, is just sitting there going, haha, guys, they don't realize yet. Haha, guys, they don't realize yet. And then when they get the Phoenix, everybody screams and laughs. He takes it a step further by going into the enemy base and laughs in the fountain. That's the stuff I like to see. Right there, Welshbeastq, welcome to TMNT for life. He's the newer player on the roster, and I like him already.
See, ain't nobody got time to be complaining in the Smite console league right now. You just got to keep smiting on and making sure that you're trying to get back into the game. If you're at the side of XL, that's a pretty big hit here.
That's a huge hit.
But at the same time, it is a 2-game set here. So even though the Fire Giant did go the way on the side of TMNT, we're going to see them still try to push forward here and close out the game. They have a little bit of a lead here. It's 8,500 at the 23, almost 24-minute mark. They're still not in a commanding lead to just outright win here.
Oh, exactly. They still need to fight into it. And I do want to correct you a little bit. It's not a 2-game set, but they do have much more Smite to play. We're going to see a number of games throughout the day as these players go ahead and try to solidify their stop. So I see where you're going, though, because it should be about 2 games they play unless we go to tiebreakers, which will be absolutely insane if that comes down to it. These teams are kind of evenly matched, so So I'm kind of excited. I'm not going to say I'm rooting for a tiebreak here, totally, but I do want to see these guys really come out and play. TMNT for Lyfe, 24 minutes in. They've got the kill lead, 12-7. They've got the gold lead, 63-54. And they've got the momentum lead. Nothing as far as towers are concerned on the map with an XL tag on them. Left Phoenix was taken. There's the frenzy, and here comes Odin. Counter initiation is strong, but is it strong enough? Predator says no. Continuing on, TMNT gonna continue looking for their slice of the pie. Jumping on back, Bloakley in trouble. He's toasted. There's Auzrik. Ollie's gone as well. Number 15 on the board, and no compromise is gonna walk back into his fountain. TMNT for Lyfe, looking like they're going to take the first game.
Not able to defend their mid Phoenix. It doesn't matter about getting all three. Finding those 3 kills, it's going to allow TMNT to secure this game against Excel Esports, looking very strong very quickly. This game was pretty even for a majority of the game, but just like that one team fight in the tier 2 mid tower, finding the Phoenix as well, just opened the door wide open.
I mean, this was a game for Excel for the majority of the early game. You watched Fenrir and Poseidon do Fenrir Poseidon over and over and over.
Yeah.
And then Fenrir was 5 levels behind, and it just didn't matter. Auzrik, I actually lamented his play early in the game. I said, what is he doing? As soon as you hit level 5 on him, Batz, do something. Auzrik sat on his hands for the majority of the early game, but come mid and late game, this guy really brought it. The flanks coming out with the ultimates really led to control.
Exactly. This is something that you need to be patient with on the side of Batz, which is why he was quietly farming in the earlier stages of the game, whereas we saw Bloakley trying to make the plays, and that's why he wasn't able to really keep up with the farm. Not to mention the timing of the depths from Bloakley was a little bit later than Auzrik, so he wasn't able to really catch up after that point in time.
That was that play that we just saw towards the end. Yeah, that was a big part. We mentioned how the ganking kind of hurt Bloakley in the long run, but at the end of the day, this is not the player that you want to start a question when it comes down to the Batz. The European Console League, a lot of people might be a little bit less familiar with it. Auzrik, Batz, this is as ubiquitous as, I mean, some of our more famous SPL players. Auzrik has been playing Batz at the top level on the European console side for a while now, so it's good to see him still bring out the monkey.